Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and the Blackest Heart. Both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today I'm going to be reviewing Under the Sweetwater Rim by Louis L'Amour. Now, you can see I've got two copies of the book here. So let's review the covers first, because you know I love graphic design and cover illustration. And we got two covers here to review. Now, I searched up and down to find out who the artist was for each of these covers. I could not find anything. They're not listed in the book and everything, but let's go over them. I think they're both good. I think they both get at what's going on in the novel. They're both actually pretty good. This one is a cavalry soldier in a rainstorm. It works. There was a cavalry soldier in the book. This one is sort of by the way, this has got a great painting of a snowy scene with the cowboys in the background. And even though I really quite like this one, it's striking, I actually kind of like this one better. This is the older original version. This is the newer one. But overall, they've got, pretty similar backs. Anyway, let's give, the one thing is, and look at, I just noticed, I've had these books forever in my life. I just noticed one of them, the author's name and title of the book is at the top. The other one, the author's name is at the bottom. That's kind of cool. I just noticed that. So the book came out in 1971. It's about to it takes place right after the Civil War. Our main character is Tenador Bryan, or as his friends like to call him, Ten Bryan. Now Ten Bryan is about 30 years old, and he's belonged to the Foreign Legion. He was one of the guards for the Papal Zuavis at the Vatican. I don't know what the Papal Zuavis is at the Vatican. Is that the Pope's entourage? Anyway, Ten Bryan was a guard there, and he also had a lot of adventures in China. He's a world traveler, and he used to travel the world. Well, he didn't really travel the world, but he had a friend back in the day whose name was Reuben Kelsey, and they kind of grew up together, but took different paths in life. Whereas Ten Bryan went out and became a Foreign Legion world traveler Pope guard, Reuben Kelsey became a outlaw, an Old West outlaw. So that's the setup for this. Now, Ten Bryan, he's a good guy, but he's kind of a rake himself. He's kind of a little bit devilish himself. And there's this character named Major Devereaux, who thinks that he's a bit of a ne'er-do-well, or a rake, or whatever, that you can think of. And then, but Devereaux's daughter, Mary, she has other ideas, because, as Han Solo said to Princess Leia, "You like me because I'm a scoundrel." And that's kind of the way Ten Bryan is. He's like, "Mary, you like me because I'm a scoundrel." He's a good, honorable guy like Han Solo, whereas his friend Reuben Kelsey has just turned into an outlaw. But what happens is there's a wagon train that is attacked. And this is where the plot and mystery starts to grip us. And this is one of the more action-packed Louis L'Amour novels that we've got. And I've read them all. I've read them all. I've got my entire Louis L'Amour collection right there. Got every one of his novels right there. And I will tell you, this is one of the most action-packed, adventure-filled of the 100 or so that there are. The wagon train is attacked, but there's a few things going on with this wagon train. First of all, there's a rumored $60,000 in gold in the wagon train, in one of the wagons. Reuben Kelsey, our outlaw, attacks the wagon train, and he finds out that there's one of the wagons is mysteriously missing, and that just happens to be the one with the gold in it. Well, that's because our main man, 10 Brian, knew what was going to happen, and he took that wagon out of the wagon train previously, and now he's absconded with it himself, and then we get the grand quest and the grand chase that takes us up to the Sweetwater Rim, which is basically up in the Wind River Range area of Wyoming, and we just get a ton of action and adventure, cat and mouse, between Mary Devereaux, between 10 Brian, between the outlaw Reuben Kelly, and a whole host of other characters. Lots of chasing each other through the woods and through the snow, and gunfights and horses, and it's just absolutely one of the more delightful Louis L'Amour novels that are out there. I absolutely loved reading this one. And if I ever do a top 10 Louis L'Amour books that I've read, this is probably going to finish pretty high. So if you want a good starting point into a Louis L'Amour adventure that's not part of one of his bigger series like the Sacketts, this is a standalone novel. You won't find any of these characters in any of the other Louis L'Amour books, but it's just an absolute delight. I loved this. This is a 9.5 out of 10 for me, and I love this cover a lot. This cover here is pretty decent too, although I don't know if I can get a real good. Anyway, review's over.